Okay.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Katie Chuba from the Hartland Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us for Zoom at noon. We have been doing these throughout this COVID-19 pandemic, if you will, with area leaders and business owners and industry experts, and they've been really good for our community and good for our businesses. So we welcome you to this webinar. And today we have our superintendent of Hartland Consolidated Schools, Chuck Hughes, joining me today. Hi, Chuck. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hello, glad to be here.
And we did this a few weeks ago. We did this about 6 weeks ago. And I don't know about you, Chuck, but I feel like every week feels like a month. So, things have changed drastically daily, as we all know, as we live in this crazy world right now. So I'm sure you have quite a different update than you did a few weeks ago when we sat and chat and did one of these Zooms. So
Well,
needless to say.
it really depends. I might or I might not, you know. I think
So
it depends on the topic.
no, yeah, well, curious minds want to know what's going on with the schools. And just so you all know, Chuck sat in on the Hartland Chamber Board of Directors meeting this past Tuesday and gave our business leaders an update on what's going on. And so I'm really excited for him to share this out into the community. We are recording. We are on Facebook Live, so we're hoping to capture a little bit more of our community. The more we communicate, the more we share is the better for all of us that live, work, and play in our community. So, well, Chuck, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm sure I know you, and I know that you probably have a plan on the update. I do have some questions that were emailed to me, so I'll let you kind of run through.
Okay.
I know you're getting bombarded with what's going on. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, it's certainly interesting times, and it continues to be interesting times. If you are keeping abreast of the newspaper, I know the governor has said that on June 30th, her panel will release some guidelines for what school will look like in the fall potentially. So we'll await that. We're not going to make very many guesses because it's not worth making the guesses. As you said earlier, things change from minute to minute, day to day. Let's just wait and see what comes out. In the meantime, what we've said to our community over and over is that it won't be until probably mid-July, late July, that we actually put a plan out there for everybody to see and what we're thinking, because we want to be thoughtful and deliberate. We don't want to put a plan out there that's going to change in just a couple days, which it could. We don't want to put a plan out there that could change on June 30th, because it could. And so people start planning because we put stuff out there, and then it just gets convoluted and it gets difficult to deal with. So how about we put one plan out there that's very thoughtful, very deliberate, and this is what school will look like to the best of our ability come the beginning of the year, knowing, of course, that that could even change, right? So that's our plan. We would say enjoy your time off right now. Enjoy your summer break right now. Give us some time to regroup after finishing a very stressful year, which was very stressful. I'm sure it was for many parents, and it was extremely stressful for us as a school district because we're not only dealing with the idea that we have to figure out how we're going to do schooling in a safe environment for children, but also figure out how we're going to deal with the fact that the school aid fund is not going to be putting very many dollars towards the budget next year, and could even result in taking some money away this year. If you don't know it, I'll try to put a picture out there. In the community life, every once in a while, I put articles out there. And this pie graph here, this is the I believe this was March of 2019. So this has changed a little bit, but by not much. The school aid fund is made up 45% of sales tax. You know, if you remember Proposition A changed that heavy levy on property taxes to the sales tax. 24% is income tax, I believe. 7% is made up of the proceeds after payouts in the lottery system. So none of those are doing very well right now. And so that's why you're seeing the emphasis in the media that schools will potentially be very underfunded this year unless the federal government comes through and provides some stimulus money. And of course, with that, this is a non-political view, to be honest with you, is every time the feds decide to create an avenue for money to flow, what happens? Our national deficit continues to grow. That's my personal issue, to be honest with you. I don't like to see that national deficit growing because someone's got to pay for that eventually. So that's an issue. And but we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that. So that's not helping in our planning for the fall because I know there's lots of concerns out there. What is it going to look like? What we're trying to do right now so that the public knows, and you'll start seeing it, and you might already see it with some of your students that attend Hartland schools, we've opened up a little bit. We've opened up our daycare. This is the second week of daycare being open at the 51 building, and it's going very well. So let's keep our fingers crossed with that, because every time we open something and it goes well, and we don't have any issues, then we're building that confidence towards coming back face to face in the fall. You'll start seeing our senior center starting to open and some activities out of our senior center. The Hartland Education Service Center, where I'm at, is open now for people to come in. Our school buildings have been open for scheduled appointments. Now, the schools, all of the schools will be closed as of Friday, the 19th, except for the high school, the 51 daycare, and this building, the Hartland Education Service Agency. That's because the administrators and teachers are on summer break. They're off. So we're doing that. You're seeing our athletes going back and having conditioning. You're seeing our runners running through the village and down Krause Road as they begin training and conditioning themselves for coming back. You're seeing the baseball leagues out there. You're starting to see groups of kids. You're seeing our businesses open up. All of those, if we follow the best guidelines possible, creates that confidence level for the community to eventually say, in the fall, let's get our kids back to school. And so it's good to see all this happening because we need it to be successful. And being successful means doing the things that we can to ensure that it's a successful transition back to normalcy. All the
Chuck,
years.
if I may, can I interject here for a second?
Yep.
So I know those of you that are listening, the Hartland Area Chamber of Commerce, our office is in the main central office there on 59. And you have I want to, and hopefully you can share a little bit more, but I was at the building today and I'm trying to go, we're talking about how, our reopening strategy at the chamber, and it's nice. So just to kind of, like you said, build confidence in the community and trust in knowing that it's safe. You have the QR code on the door, and I scanned it this morning. It pops up a website. It took me maybe 15 seconds to put my information in, answer the few safe questions that I'm okay to come into the building. So I don't know if you can elaborate a little bit more on that procedure.
I can. It's really a self-check, and the self-check means that you have to be honest with yourself and others, right? For the safety of everybody, when you get the questions, are you running a fever? Have you been in contact with somebody with COVID? And you answer yes to any of those questions. First of all, you shouldn't even be there answering those questions, technically, right? Like if I come to the door and I'm going to answer yes to one of these questions, I shouldn't be there. Like, do not come to our buildings. Our students, before they show up with their coaches for conditioning, they all have to go online and answer those questions. Do not show up if you answer yes to any of those. And certainly if you answer, I've been exposed to somebody with COVID, the expectation would be that you go work with your physician to get tested so you know whether or not you have it or not, right? Like,
right.
It just makes sense.
Right. And from the chamber perspective, if we were to have meetings, I like the fact that I have that as a reference log. So if a week later someone says, hey, I was in your building, just so you know, I came down with it, we can go back and use that data to contact all those people that were in the building. Hey, you were here this day, someone came down with it, you should go get tested.
Right. Yep.
So it is a good positive tool too.
So I just want to, again, I got to emphasize because I don't know why somebody wouldn't think this way, but seriously, if you have a fever, if you're sick, please do not come to the facilities. just don't come. That's as simple as it gets. When you get to that door and you do your QR code and you answer the questions, it should be simply no, 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 I'm good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. Thank you.
So that's how we're managing, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to accomplish this idea that let's win a bunch of skirmishes so that we can win the war. And I only get that because I was watching the Grant thing, the President Grant special on the History Channel, I believe, and he won a lot of skirmishes, they say. So I don't know. I just picked that one up.
You're stealing the analogy. I like it.
I guess.
So,
win the skirmishes to win the war, right?
right. As you continue to kind of give us an update, I want to also let everyone know if you have questions, just throw them in Q&A. And at the end, if we don't answer your questions, I'll try to facilitate those. And we have some other questions too that came in via email.
Okay.
So, everyone wants to know, what the plan is. I mean, I feel like we're beating a dead horse because you don't have a plan. And I know you have many plans in place and you're getting input from the community. So kudos to you because you have been very transparent through this whole thing. You have reached out to leaders in our community to gauge their input on what they feel, and parents and teachers. And
Yeah.
so I know it's hard for you to answer a lot of these questions because you don't know, and I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but everyone is curious, what is it going to look like? Every little thing from sanitation to masks to social distancing. So
yeah. Well, I guess I can tackle a couple of things here. First of all, I have had lots of, quite a few people ask about a community survey on what they would like school to look like in the fall. And I've been pretty adamant to say we're not going to do that. And here's why. One, we're keeping abreast of social media. I purposely joined the Hartland Parents Group's Facebook so I can keep abreast of people's thoughts and feelings. I try to contact, and I've had a couple of times already this summer, or since we've gone down, working with the PTOs, we call the District Parent Advisory Committee, and asking for input and information. We have quite a bit of communication with parents on how the end of the year went and how that continuous learning plan worked out. For some, it worked out great. For others, they say it wasn't so perfect, right? So we've got all that information. We're working on that. And we don't feel like we're going to put a survey out, because if I put a survey out and many people say, we want this, and I can't do that, then it's a fallacy of the survey, right? Like there are some things I might not be able to do. There are things, for instance, I've gotten a large outpour of people saying, if there are any restrictions in play, we're not sending our kids to school. We don't want our kids to have to wear a mask. We don't want our kids to have to not be able to play with their friends. And I get all that. That's absolutely, I understand that. However, at the end of the day, our plan has to be in sync with what the state allows us to do, what the governor allows us to do, what MDE allows us to do. So we will have the best plan possible to go face-to-face, because that's what we want. We all, I think, in general, want face-to-face. For those that are not comfortable sending their children to school in the fall right away, then we're going to have an online learning component that's much more rigorous than what we saw here in spring. We will have an online platform where the teachers are doing mini lessons every day. That then you'll go to Google Classroom or Seesaw and do some of the lessons, and then the teacher will provide feedback, and the teacher will provide assessment, and the teacher will provide grading that is associated with those assessments and feedback. So we'll have all that, but that's all professional development that we're going to have to engage in over the summer to make sure we're ready for that in the fall. If for some reason the governor says, here's the deal, you still have to have social distancing 6 feet apart. Well, we can't do that and run school as it is today. You can't do that and run school with 25 or 30 students in a classroom. So what will that look like? Well, we're coming up with a plan for what that will look like in regards to, maybe it's a couple days a week you go to school, or maybe if it's even 1 day a week and then the rest is online. And there's lots of conversations around that from our level, talking with our administrators, talking with our teacher groups, making sure that we're ready with whatever plan has to be rolled out and options for parents. Because here's what we can't afford. I just told you that the school aid fund's not doing well. If, for instance, I've gotten a lot of parents that said, well, I'm going to homeschool my children. Well, what does homeschooling mean? In the real sense of homeschooling, homeschooling is you're notifying the school district that you're unenrolling your children and you're going to homeschool them using some format that you get wherever it is you get, right? That's homeschooling. If you mean I'm going to keep my kids at home, but I'm going to maximize the potential of what the school district offers through the online component, then that's online education through Hartland schools. If we get a bunch of people that choose to homeschool their children in the sense of I'm unenrolling my children from Hartland schools, that's not going to help the school district. It's not going to help the school district if we're hit with a $2,000 per student cut, because now we also lose the rest of those students. And the only way you generate revenue for a school district reality is students. So you have a budget that's due here on June 30th. The state does not have to have their budget in until October. So we don't know what the real numbers are. We're going to develop a budget to the best of our ability. We're going to staff to the best of our ability. And we're going to have to see what happens in the fall. And if 20% of our parents choose to keep their kids away from school and unenroll them to homeschool them, then you can do the math and say, let's say $8,000 times 20% of 5,460. And there's a lot of money that's gone that will never be recouped. Our district looks different at that point in time. So from a superintendent, I can't afford for parents to just take their kids out of Hartland schools, nor do we want you to. We want to provide the options that give you a timetable to say, well, I'll do some engagement with this online component until I feel comfortable sending Katie back to school. And maybe I send Katie back to school on October 15th. Well, now she's fully enrolled in school, right? And we continue that process. What happens if everybody's back to school face to face and someone comes down with the virus and we have to do something where that classroom cannot come to school for 14 days? How do you deliver that instruction, right? So it is up in the air, but I'm hoping that when parents talk about homeschooling, seriously, that they're not talking about, I'm going to unenroll them from Hartland schools. That what parents are really talking about is, I'm not comfortable sending them to school right away. I'm going to maximize the opportunity that the district's going to provide through their teachers presenting the lessons and me working with my students on the work and getting feedback and assessments. And then when I'm ready to, then I'm going to release my students to come back to school. That's what I'm hoping people are going to do versus the opposite of, I'm just going to unenroll. Because that's not going to help anybody, and it's certainly, I'm just telling you straight up, with the funding cuts that we're going to be experiencing, for that to happen would be devastating to our school district, and we're going to try to protect against that. Does that make sense?
For sure.
So.
Yes, and I don't envy you, Chuck. Sorry,
Yeah.
you have your hands full. I know you do, and you know. Aside from all of that, my brain is thinking from the parent perspective. My kids were home for a few months and I was trying to manage their learning.
Mm-hmm.
I have to trust that they're healthy enough. I want them, that's my personal thing. I want them to go back to school.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, what's the trade-off? It's like, yeah, their health is number one priority to me, but I'm not a school teacher. I didn't go to school to be a school teacher.
Sure.
I got a taste of it. You can have them. So,
and keep in mind,
and I know you have parents that have different views than me. There are parents that, you know, maybe they were school teachers and they feel like they can handle it. And I really do hope we have an excellent school district. Our kudos to you. I'm been with the school district for 20 years. I've had kids in school 20 years with the school district, and I feel like they're getting a top-notch education. So for you to be flexible enough to offer the online option, I think is great. However, my question is, from a teacher's standpoint, if I have to do my regular classroom with the kids that are in school and then provide an online option, that seems like a lot of work.
And I would agree with you. And that's what our conversations with our Teachers Association has been, is we're going to be asking a lot of our teachers because once again, it comes down to, we don't want to lose our students. We don't want our parents to feel like there's no other option. We want our parents to have that option. So what we're doing is we're asking our teachers, and we're going to engage in a very heavy professional development process here before school starts during the summer, and that is that teachers are recording every day their mini lesson. And that's the beginning of the lesson where you actually teach this content area, 10 to 15 minutes. So if I'm an elementary teacher, I would record my reading lesson, my writing lesson, my math lesson, my science lesson, my social studies lesson. I would save that and I would download it, and it would be available for parents almost immediately, to be honest with you, the way we're going to do this. And then in Seesaw, if I'm a younger student, kindergarten through second grade, I believe, or JK through second grade, I'll use a platform called Seesaw. And if I'm above that, everybody else will use the platform Google Classroom. And you'll go there and do your lessons, and then teachers will have time. One of the things we're going to have to consider, to be honest with you, and don't know where this is right now, so please, if I say it now, don't go out and tell everybody, oh, this is what they're doing. But because it's going to require a lot of opportunity for teachers to find that time to do this work, it might be that we have to decide that the first month of school, we're in school 4 days and we're off on Friday, so that teachers have time to catch up and make sure they're providing that accurate feedback. It depends on what number of students are attending school, right? So we might have to make that decision if we're finding that there is a large number of students maximizing the online, and teachers have to have time to be able to give that feedback and work with those students. So that could be an option. Again, we haven't made that decision. So please, once again, don't go out and tell everybody, oh, this is what they're doing. But that's a thought process of what will that look like for our teachers to have the time to make sure they're providing the best content and the best feedback and assessment that they can for kids. So that's a great question, and we're worried about that. There's no doubt. Teachers did not get into the business of public education to be online teachers. If you want to do that, you go and you sign up to be a teacher through Michigan Virtual University or another avenue. But you chose to be a teacher to have that direct contact with kids every day. And that's what we're trained to do.
And you're not alone exploring your options. Every business is doing it. Here at the chamber, we're looking what our options are. What is, plan A, plan B, plan C, and it sounds like you're thinking these things through and getting feedback from your staff. And so that's good. That's good to hear. One of the questions I had for you, Chuck, is, the other superintendents in Livingston County. I know Wayne Rodell, Aaron McGregor. I know Pinckney has their whole set of budget issues with enrollment in that community, but I know that you're close with those other superintendents. You guys, I'm sure, converse. What are some of the things that they're sharing with you that might be insightful for the entire county?
Yeah. Well, right now, as we speak, we have a group of teachers and our technology director actually working through Zoom with all of the county school districts with what this could look like to be consistent throughout the county. So as a county, we try to at least understand everybody's perspective, with an understanding also that we're all unique in our own way. So what are some platforms we can use? What are some ways of managing professional development for teachers to be able to do the best job that they can do? So we coordinate those efforts to the best of our ability through LESA, Livingston Education Service Agency, and their curriculum individuals there that really are the center of the collaboration effort to bring people together and talk about what's happening and learn from each other. To be honest with you, we try to learn from each other on a regular basis, no different than I meet with the superintendents once a month to talk about issues and to figure out how we approach these issues that come our way as superintendents. And it's kind of a nice thing because you realize the issues that you're dealing with as a superintendent in Hartland are really no different than the issues everybody else is dealing with, as I'm sure you do, Katie, as you talk with the other chamber presidents and executives. So it's just a good feeling to know that in Livingston County, we have 5 public school districts, which is better than having 20 or more in some of the counties. And we can do and accomplish a lot if we put our mind together and learn from each other.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
So I would love to hear a little bit about the bond. Are you ready to move into that? Yes, I knew. Great sign.
Yeah. Um, to be honest with you, it's probably more important than ever before with the financial situation we find ourselves in. Uh, on March 12th, we would have not be concerned with what's happening with the bond. Actually, on March 12th, we had a survey, our original survey that was out there, and 2,060 members of our community that had responded to that survey, we had a 71% approval rating. So we were doing really well. We felt really confident that we had visited the schools, visited the parents, had focus groups, done all the things we needed to do to say, here's why it's important for us to pass this bond. A reminder to the public, when you look at facilities and you look at improvement of facilities and capital projects, the expectation is the local district deals with those expectations and pays for them. That's an expectation. So when you look at school funding doesn't deal with upgrading facilities. That's a local decision and a local expectation. So the bond really is about taking care of our local needs that aren't funded through the school aid fund and the general dollars that flow back to the school district. So everybody, every school district has bonds periodically. We haven't asked our public for a bond since 2010. And so this bond is really geared towards taking care of the things that we need to take care of. So I won't go through all that. You can visit www.heartlandschools.us and see the bond presentation and all the information that comes with that. But to say that it takes care of some security issues, some busing, some technology issues, taking care of our buildings where they're in need, that takes care of it all. You can go around our district and you can see orange signs. And if you see an orange sign, you know that something's happening in that spot, right? So all of our buildings would have an orange sign in their windows because every classroom will be addressed through technology and furniture and carpeting and lighting and those types of needs that they have in those spaces. So right now, we are in our campaign to say, please remember that instead of May 5th, it's August 4th. We know that a lot of people potentially might be opening up as the state opens up and going to be on vacation on August 4th. Please sign up to absentee ballot. Cast your vote. That's all we can ask is that our public cast their vote. And then we know where the public is on what they want our school system to look like in the future. This is not an immediate, everything's going to be done in the first year. This is the long-term, what will our district look like 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now? And what are our needs to take care of so we get there in a way that we really are proud of our school district and we feel like we're providing the best educational environment for our children. This is what it's about. So we hope that everybody gets out to vote. We hope that if you're going to be gone, you're absentee voting, that remember it's August 4th. Make sure you get out and cast your vote. And what you tell us is what we'll be doing. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure. And everything's on the website.
It is.
The bond presentation I did sit through, I've also read through, so it is worth your time to read through it and look at the bond presentation to really grasp what the needs are. So I'm also advocating for folks to go ahead and visit the website and look through that presentation. So.
And to be honest with you, this is even more important than in May, because this whole COVID situation and the fact that school funding is going to be slashed, this bond opens up the general fund a little bit, which we talked a lot about, by purchasing buses, which we have to replace, by purchasing technology. If it's not bond dollars, it's general fund dollars. And if it's general fund dollars, then there's a lot less money to go around, especially if the school aid fund is lacking dollars for the districts to receive. So this bond is probably more important than ever before, simply because it will help us get through the next year that we don't even have an inkling, except that it is going to be dire. We don't know what it's going to look like, but we're being told, brace yourself, because even if it's a $650 or $700 per student less, that's a lot of money. Again, do that number times 5,460. And it's a lot of money that just is gone.
You know, I'm kind of looking at some of the questions coming in, Chuck. I think we got a handful of questions that I think we should start tackling them.
Okay.
One of them was about the bond largely going to be used towards athletics. Is that going to be reconsidered to use the bond funds for needs more for education? Well, let me start, please, because I did
Okay.
sit through
Go
the bond.
ahead.
I did sit through the bond presentation. Part of it was going to be allocated for athletics, but again, it wasn't that wasn't the majority. It's more building maintenance to technology, things like that, correct?
Uh,
I feel like, and before you answer that, just so everyone knows, I'm really active in our community, especially with sports. And it's great to have athletic facilities, but that's not the main purpose of the bond. So I think that's a misnomer in our community. That's the talk amongst my sports people, if you will. And I always have to say it's not just for sports, or
yeah.
athletics.
Yeah. You're right. And I was going to try to grab the graph in the newest presentation. I wish I would have had that out, but I'm not sure I have it sitting here in front of me. But I think it's less than, it's just about 18% of the $45 million, if I'm recalling correctly, is
about right
for athletic and or recreational facilities throughout the district. That includes renovations, things that have to be done, plus a little bit more in regards to the auxiliary stadium, to add that to the district repertoire of flexibility in field space and field usage. So it's not the entire bond. During the process of doing the presentations to the groups, one person said, I heard 91% of the bond is athletics. And I said, no, that's not true. Certainly a bond takes care of those, what most people would say, non-essential classroom things, right? I mean, if you're limited on general fund dollars to take care of the instructional components of school, in order to renovate and update and add, that's a local contribution of bond dollars. And yes, we are asking for about 18% of the dollars to go towards that direction.
I don't know if you know off the top of your head, we talked a lot about STEM, or now I'm hearing STEAM is the new acronym.
Yep.
Science, technology,
engineering, mathematics, and
art and mathematics was in there. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, our technology is booming, robotics is booming. So part of this bond is to build, a facility for those kids to learn, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So,
right here,
which is great.
Right here on the Hartland Educational Service Center on the back side, we'll add we'll renovate a locker room and add a small addition for the robotics program. We know that the STEM programs, science, technology, engineering, and math, throw arts in there, as a STEAM, but we've been using STEM. Those are the jobs of the future. And we need to support those skills that kids can learn foundationally at the elementary levels. Thus, you'll see those STEAM collaboration centers at our elementary schools. Part of the bond would free up some general funds dollars for us to add a fourth elective to our elementary schools. Currently, we only have 3 electives. We have art, PE, and music. But yeah, we have 4 and sometimes 5 sections of JK kindergarten, let's say, or 4 sections of 4th grade. And when they go to their elective class, one of those classes has to be split up and sent with the other classes. And it's not ideal. It adds large numbers. So adding that 4th teacher back to support science, technology, engineering, and math with a foundation so that when they get eventually to the high school and beyond, they have that foundation for those jobs of the future. So we feel like that's really an important component of this bond, is to allow us to renovate those media centers, still have books available in those spaces, but we'll call them the STEAM collaboration centers, still have books for kids to sign out, still have lots of opportunity for kids to engage in learning in those different design spaces.
Awesome. Nurturing the STEM.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move through some more of these questions so
Okay.
we can move along here. Here's a question for you. Any idea when driver's ed will start again? I can tackle this if you like, because I just went through it.
How about you tackle that one, because I don't know.
Yeah, I have a 16-year-old. So I think you just need to reach out to the driver's ed schools. They are, and she finished segment 2 through this pandemic through Zoom. So Saturday they did some Zoom classrooms, and she was just sent in the mail her segment 2 so she can go take her driver's test. They are doing physical driver's tests where that's happening the second week of July for us personally. And then of course our appointment with the Secretary of State's not till August, but hey, you know, but everything is online. I would just reach out to the driving school. Anything to add, Chuck, or did I handle that okay?
Sounds like you got it under control.
See, I know some things. So someone was asking about the thoughts about the governor's press conference yesterday regarding public schools being able to have face-to-face instruction.
Mhm. Yeah, and from what I understand, face-to-face will look however it needs to look based on whatever guidelines they do present. She talks about limited guidelines. Districts could be have more stringent guidelines, or at least meet the expectations. So on, like everybody else, on June 30th, I guess we'll see what is the premise of face-to-face instruction based on this committee she's working with.
For sure. June 30th is a magic date.
So can you imagine if I had a plan out there for face-to-face instruction in the fall and it has to change now?
Right.
I would not have wanted to have a plan out
Well,
there.
you're just doubling your work.
Yeah.
Why double your work? So school busing, that's a concern as well. What's the thought about what school busing will look like?
There's a
Again,
lot
it
of
depends, right?
yeah, it really does. Ultimately, there's an expense there if it's one child to a seat. And how do you deal with that expense when one, your funding is going to be limited, and two, you can't get bus drivers as it is, and three, you might have to have more buses running to be able to figure it out on the time frame. So I don't know what that's going to look like. That's a tough one. I think we're gonna have to wait and see. We got to bus students. I know some people say, under the law, you don't have to transport students to school. Okay, but if we don't transport students to school, how are they going to get here? And wouldn't I, as a parent, probably would have chosen a school district that buses students versus one that doesn't. So busing students is an essential part of what we do. I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm certainly hoping that we can bus in a traditional way and face-to-face in a traditional way. That's the optimistic side of me. I belong to the Hartland Optimist Club. I try to be an optimist, but I have to be realistic too. And the facts are the facts, and what we can do will dictate what that looks like.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yep.
There's also concern about kids getting, the way the education, and we talked about the online, if it's in school or half and half. Some parents felt like in the spring it was kind of review with the pass or fail. Kids not doing enough work. I mean, there was all kinds of feedback. So will the new learning happen in the fall, no matter if it's online in school or half and half? I mean, we did talk about that. Again, I know you don't know, but again, I'm just trying to address these folks' questions that are coming in.
Yeah, new learning will be the process, right? We have no choice. We can't do anything other than move the curriculum forward. We are going to have to spend some time assessing our students, using the assessment tools that we have to see where students are, and bringing students along. How many students and what does the learning loss look like from the summer, and where do we need to really beef up? What standards did we miss in the spring? And what does that look like for fourth graders who missed some of the third grade curriculum? What do we need to spend some time with? So we'll do all that work. We'll probably assess students early on to understand where they are. Part of what we do anyways on a day-to-day basis is formative assessment, constantly using formative assessment to figure out where are kids now so that I can plan my tomorrow lesson or my next week lesson to support where they're deficit, right? So the summative learning is those final exams and things like that. It's that assessment you do on a regular basis to see where children are, to design lessons around that. That will be important to us. So we understand that, and we would ask that our public trust that that's what we're supposed to be doing, and that's what we will do.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head too when you said we have no choice. We have to move the curriculum forward.
Mhm.
And you do.
Yeah.
In the spring, it was a little different. You know, I heard in my household, well, it's optional. And we said, no, it's not in this
Mhm.
house. So, but I like the fact that, you know, whether it's half and half online or in person, it's real school,
Right.
right?
Yep.
That's a reality.
Absolutely.
So here's another question for you. I'm just going to kind of go through these. What may be the plan for kids that may have medical conditions that put them more at risk, that also may not have internet access at home? So this may be a twofold question, because I'm sure there are students out there that do not have internet access for online learning, and there are
Well,
kids that have medical risks.
I
So,
think we have to look at each case individually.
mhm.
And if we have to go find internet service and a provider for them, I guess we'll have to do that because we want to make sure we take care of those students. So I think what the best answer I can give you is we'll work with each child individually, case by case, the building principals, the building support staff, and we'll figure out what we can do to make that work best for that child. And that's the best answer I can give you. I don't
No,
know.
that's a great answer. That's very catering to our students. So that's nice to hear. In the spring, you correct me if I'm wrong, you did have students that were in this predicament, did not have internet access, and I believe the school did they provide?
We didn't provide internet access. We provided
Okay.
packet work. We didn't
Oh,
think
that's
that
right. Packet work.
it
Okay,
wasn't
sorry.
optimal, but we also know we were trying to, for instance, we were working with Verizon to say, okay, we need some of these hotspot cards for computers. Uh, and the cost was one thing, but we couldn't even get them for 30 days. And by the time we even got them, we'd have been done, pretty much done with the school year. So
Right.
we didn't choose to move in that direction. But certainly we have been thinking, for instance, what I did with my technology director is I looked at all the people that reported in our survey that they had no internet service, right? And we plotted them on a district map to see where is it that people don't have internet service. And what we found in most cases, believe it or not, were people that didn't have internet service, but everybody around them had it. So very few people on that reported they didn't have access. It really wasn't a matter of it wasn't available. It was a matter of I don't have it. And could be lots of reasons why you don't have it, right?
Sure.
So
Sure.
so we'll just have to work through each of those cases and figure out what's the best way to get you that so that you have it.
Awesome. I think we should reach out to one of those companies and see if they'll do a little sponsorship for the schools.
Yeah.
So I've just kind of looked through a few more questions that we had come in via email. When should we know what how school will look like for the fall? We kind of went through that. Who makes the final decision regarding overnight, week-long camps, trips through the high school, cross country, band, things like that, sports? I know there's some sports that do overnight. And is there a date for those decisions?
The answer is you're looking at them. So overnight trips are signed off by the superintendent, me, based on conversations with either Mr. Wheeler and the athletic director or Ms. Gregory at the high school as a principal, or the other principals that might be doing overnight like Mackinac trip. So those all go through my office. As they are presented to me, that's when we make the decisions. So if someone is planning an overnight trip at this point in time, it's a matter of getting with their building coordinator, either the athletic coordinator or the principal, and then moving that through the system to me.
Are there any overnight camps or anything like that planned for this summer? Or has everything been canceled?
The only one I know still sitting out there is band camp.
Okay.
And I believe we're still waiting to see how that's going to work out.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Let's see here. Is there a certain date things will be decided and announced in regards to any changes for the coming school year, daily education activities at school? We talked about that. So physical distancing and face masks, making communication difficult. We can't see facial expressions. We talked about this last time on our call, little kids.
Mhm.
I know my children, if they were in kindergarten or first grade, I don't really think the face mask thing would last too long, as much as I would try, aside from tying it on them and not giving them an option to ever get it off.
And,
Acts, go ahead.
well, I mean, even the face shield,
Right.
you sneeze a couple times, who's cleaning it? I don't know. I'm just,
Yeah,
I know
right.
that
No,
I'm not
that's
trying
a
to
good
be,
point.
I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm saying there certainly there's some drawbacks to everything, right? So there's some positives. I understand a shield and you can see my face and you can read my lips and you can do the things. So I get that. Again, I don't have an answer for that. I don't know that we want to start school personally with everybody wearing face masks and face shields. I would again, my optimism says let's get back to school as normal as possible. All of my training from the time I became a teacher through administration is in times of crisis, you got to get back to normalcy as quick as possible. Now, I get the health issues, I get all those risks, I get it. But we also want to do this to the best of our ability and have the most success. So, what will that look like? I think you're going to give kids options, you're going to give parents options. If you want to wear the face shield or you want to wear the mask, certainly it's an option. To try to figure out how these little ones are going to keep that on all day, I don't know. To keep your little ones from touching each other on the playground and playing with each other, how's that going to happen? I don't have, I'm not going to sit out there with a electrical prodder and try to keep people away,
Right.
like I don't know how that works,
Nobody does, Chuck. Don't feel bad.
Yeah,
And I won't even touch the lunchroom and
right.
feeding kids. I mean, that's a whole nother ball of wax. And the reason I bring that up is because we do business events and luncheons, and knowing that you're going to be drinking a beverage and eating food, are you going to wear a mask? Are you
Right.
not? It's a mixed bag right now.
Yeah. So those are just issues I don't have answers for, and we'll do the best we can. I just don't know. I wish I could say that this is how it's going to be, and I don't see that happening. Again, I think the only real choice to do it effectively, efficiently, and well, period, is back to school as normal. So
Yeah. And be able to be flexible and adjust if needed, right?
absolutely. Yep.
So I know we talked, Kurt, I know you're listening. I do have a contact for driver's ed, and I can email that to you later on. So I know he was asking about a driver's ed contact. Oh, we have a comment here. Please do, from our friend Stephanie Furge, please do what you can to ensure band, choir, and drama can continue. Yeah, I think we're gonna ensure, well, I say we, like I actually, hopefully the schools will ensure that the kids can experience school in a positive, safe manner.
I say go. Let's get it.
Let's get it done. Let's get it
Yeah.
done. So we have another question here, and we just have a couple minutes here. We'll just answer a couple more questions. We've been on for about 50 minutes, so our plan is just about an hour. My concern is that quote unquote normal this past year specifically meant that the flu was rampant through our school for several months, and the nurse had to send communication 3 times not to send your kids to school sick. How will we ensure parents don't send their kids to school sick? Boy, that's a tough question. You can't control everybody. All you can do is preach and preach and preach and hope that these parents are doing the right thing. But we all know that in this world, not everybody does what we want them to do sometimes. That's a hard question to answer.
No different. Remember, we started out with the QR code right on the doors.
Right.
Like, seriously, why would you come and answer yes to one of those questions and then come through the door. I don't get it. I don't pretend to understand it. If I
Yeah.
have a sick child, I get that there are ramifications of having to take care of my sick child at home. But for the peace of everybody, please keep your kids at home.
Yeah. Stay home if you're sick, no
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah.
We talked about the kids at home, the option of having that half and half or maybe online learning. Another piece of that is parents that work. If
Mm-hmm.
there's, I mean, I know that was a big stressor in the spring. We work full time, our kids are home. How do we, though we're home working, but what happens when I go back to the office and my kids are here, or if they're little and I have to keep them home, that means that I can't go to my job. So these are all things that are running through people's minds,
How about this?
how to manage it.
How about this? I'm going to open school up and I want all my teachers in the classroom, right? And they're from different school districts, right? Not everybody lives in Hartland. And now they've got to their child's plan at their school is 2 days a week, and they're home 3 days a week. And we're asking them to be in the classroom every day. So what does that teacher do? And so do you say, okay, here's the deal. Why don't you enroll your kid's school of choice to Heartland, and you can bring them every day, right? Or even if you're in one of those districts in which your teachers are teaching 2 days a week to kids and then off 2 days or whatever it might be, maybe the exception has to be those teachers in your district bring their kids every day. Or maybe we have students that happen to have disabilities that really need to be in school. Guess what? Maybe that child needs to be at school every day. And let's work with that. And let's work with, again, that one-on-one, case-by-case basis to make sure that we're taking care of those issues. Can I take care of every parent that has a daycare issue if we can't go full back-to-back, face-to-face school? I hope so, but I can't guarantee it.
Yeah, never in our wildest dreams. And maybe I'm speaking for everybody in your career and your life. Did you ever think we'd go through something like this? So I think at the end of the day, asking your patience as our community navigates through all of this, the schools, the businesses that are opening, they're asking the same thing. They're going through the same thing. How to open, what's the right thing to do? Because nobody has the right answer.
Right.
This
Can I
isn't
can
something
I
we've
ask can I ask this of our community, please? If you have concerns, if you have questions, feel free to email me. Email me and leave me a phone number, please. Please leave me a phone number. I would rather pick up the phone and call you. It's sometimes it takes me a while to find your phone number in the system, but we find it eventually. But please email me your concern with a phone number. If you have a certain time of day you'd like me to call you, even if it's in the evening, I'll call you. And it's just easier to have the conversation one-on-one. Please do that for me.
Yeah, just so everybody knows it's listening, it's Chuck Hughes, Hughes at heartlandschools.us, and I put his email in the chat for everybody.
Thank you.
So Carrie Sink did have her hand up. She just wanted to say thank you. We have a few other people just saying thank you for your time today, and thanks for the information. So
Thank you all for your patience. You said it best, Katie. Patience, and let's work on this. And I'm not going to say we're all in this together because sometimes I feel like I'm by myself, but I'm really not. We got a lot of great people working on this, and we're going to get through it.
well, thank you, and thank you for your time today. I don't think there's any more questions, and we're here too. The Chamber of Commerce is here for anyone that has questions in regards to what's going on locally, whether it's just community in general or with what's going on with the businesses. We're really connected with the schools. Like I said, our office is just a stone throw from Mr. Hughes's office in the same building. So thank you for listening in today. This video is on Facebook Live, so feel free to share it amongst other parents or other staff or anyone that you think is really wants to know what's going on with the schools, and we'll try our best to keep you updated.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Have a
thank
good
you, Chuck.
summer.
All right, we'll see you soon. Thanks,
All right.
everybody. Have a great day.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.